Hey y'all, it's me Tiffany and welcome back to my channel. So I decided to make a list of 15 classics I would like to read. There are modern classics on the list, but the most recent book was published in either like 83 or 84. There are some older classics. These are just classics I have interest in. I obviously haven't read them, so while I might give a short summary, I can't talk much about them. These aren't like books I have to read like now, or I'm going to read them in like 2022, but I would like to get around them eventually. And these are like the classics that always catch my eye and I'm like, yeah, I want to read that, or I'm going to read that. I just haven't yet. So let's go. The first one I would like to talk about is The House on Mango Street. This is about a Latina girl in Chicago, and from what I understand, this is just supposed to be a coming-of-age story. The second one is Sula by Toni Morrison. I've read 2 Toni Morrison books up to this point, Beloved and The Bluest Eyes, and this one just intrigued me. It's about a person named Neil and Sula, and one decides to basically, from what it sounds, stay in their hometown. The other one decides to go off into a city. And it's supposed to follow both these characters' choices and the consequences that come above it, from one rejecting the life that they were told to have and the other one accepting it. Okay, so the next one is probably more in the realm when you think classics, because this is old. Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I have read 4 Jane Austen books at this point. Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, and Persuasion. So I just want to keep going. I've loved what I've read. So this is basically about a protagonist who left her poor home, went to go live with her uncle, but her uncle doesn't stay there, so somebody else takes care of her, and she kind of sees like the rich life scene in London, from what I understand. A lot of people enjoy, I guess, all of Jane Austen's book, but I've heard a lot of good things about this one, and I haven't read a Jane Austen book in a while, so I'm ready for this. This is like my next Jane Austen read. Okay, so the next one is called Fool's Crow, and I believe this is supposed to be a historical, not a historical fiction, of the Marias Massacre, which happened on the Marias River with the Blackfeet Native American tribe in the 1800s, when like the U.S. Army killed the wrong native tribe. Like, it wasn't the one they were supposed to be going for. I don't know a lot about this particular incident, but I have heard a little bit about it and I found this book, so I'm gonna check it out soon. So the next one's called The No-No Boy, and during the Japanese internment camp, they had the option, or at least the men did, of basically joining the U.S. Army, and I believe everybody, man or woman, had to pick whether, you know, they are going to be loyal to the United States instead of Japan. And this is about a boy. Our main character said no to both those questions, and he spends 2 years in the internment camp, and then you see what comes after. I didn't realize that the questionnaire part was a thing. Like, I knew what Japanese internment camps were, but when I read Displacement, it talked about some people choosing yes, some people choosing no. The main character in that did choose yes. So I don't know what happened afterwards. So this is definitely going to be an interesting read. And I found it when I started doing a little bit more research about internment camps. So this has been on my list for a few months, and I'm definitely curious to check that out. The next one is Jane Eyre, a beloved classic. And this is a girl who was an orphan, and she gets hired, falls in love. I don't know a whole lot about it, actually. I haven't seen any adaptations or read it myself, and I try to avoid discussions about it for the most part, because if I haven't read it and I have a slight interest, and I don't know why I have a slight interest in some of these, when it comes to movies, books, and all that, I want the minimal information as possible going into it. So that's why some of these summaries are real short, even though classics, you can find so much information about them on the internet. But she falls in love, and she's supposed to be real brave, and this is supposed to be like, or what I kind of got from, it's kind of like an outcast that kind of rises up. So I'm definitely excited to finally get to that. I actually bought a copy of Jane Eyre, so I definitely need to get to it. 7 is Around the World in 80 Days. So apparently this author has wrote like 1 billion books, and some of them are travel, whatever. I haven't read any of them. I've actually not seen the movie to this, but all I know is basically they're in some kind of reform club and they want to see if they can go around the world in 80 days. And from everything I've seen, it has something to do with a hot air balloon. So I'm always intrigued by like travel stuff, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever. And I think that's one reason I'm really into translated works. But I also like to see people who are not from that area travel into other countries and stuff. And I know this is fiction, but it just looks like a lot of fun and just maybe a traveler's fantasy. Like you could just go around the world in a hot air balloon. Is that actually possible? Probably not, but you know, it looks like a good time. The next one is called 1,000 Nights, or most commonly The Arabian Nights. It seems like that's the 2 titles for the same book, and it looks like there's multiple volumes, but either way, what I'm thinking of as Arabian Nights is what's normally sold in bookstores, like the first volume. I don't know the exact history of all that, but I do know it's like Arabian and South Asian folklore kind of thrown in one. You may know this from Aladdin, because I think the original Aladdin has a song that says Arabian Nights, and the Aladdin tale is found in Arabian Nights. So yeah, that did spark my interest into this book. But I love short stories, I love folk tales. I usually try to keep a short story collection going on my phone so I can read it slowly. And while I haven't done that in the past few months, like, I'm definitely interested in picking this up, and I've seen so many beautiful editions of this classic that I think I might just end up buying a physical copy if this is good. I normally don't try to buy too many physical books, but lately I just kind of wanted a few, and I've seen so many beautiful editions of Arabian Night. And since I like to keep a short story collection with me at all times, I'm trying to decide if I want to do this or not, or just do digital like I do in most short stories. Number 9 is The Secret Clock. It is the first Nancy Drew book. I watched like How to Train Your Gabbin', and him and another booktuber read like all of Goosebumps, and I don't think I'm gonna do that with Nancy Drew, but my mind was like, what if somebody just read all of Nancy Drew or all of Hardy Boys? And then I realized I've never read any, and I probably should look up which one's the best, but I was like, well, why not just start off with the first? They're all easy to find. Apparently there was a couple of authors in different, like, kind of like, you know how like Goosebumps has like the original Goosebumps and they have like Fear Street, all that. Apparently Nancy Drew has something similar. This is from the very first line of Nancy Drew and the very first book of Nancy Drew, and she goes and tries to find a missing will, and it's just supposed to be a lot of fun, and I kind of want to go around to reading it. So the last one I want to talk about is King Lear. I had to add Shakespeare to classics, I guess. I do enjoy Shakespeare plays, but I'm not like a big Shakespeare fanatic that I think they're for everybody or he's absolutely the best author, but I do enjoy all but one thing of his that I read, and then like even the one I didn't like, which is Romeo and Juliet. I'm glad I've read it because I do see why it was popular and why it's considered a classic, but I do not think it's the best written, but it's just, you know, and also how much Shakespeare has just influenced Western media. To me, it just feels good to have read the original source. Either ways, King Lear. Basically, he has 3 daughters to flatter him, and I'm guessing one is supposed to be kind of like a prodigal son type thing, and his kingdom is divided. And I don't know much about it, but everybody I know who's a Shakespeare buff says this is one of their favorites. And while I'm kind of been reading more of the histories, I think King Lear might be my next read, even though I've been thinking about rereading A Midnight Summer Dream, but this is about ones I haven't read. Okay guys, that is it. I just realized in my intro I said 15 books. I meant 10. I'm not gonna re-record the beginning, so I'm sorry about that. But 10 books I want to read that are classics. Some are modern, some are not. If you read any of these, let me know in the comment section below if there's any classics you think I should read. If you see my other videos or just off this list that you think I might be interested in, let me know. If these absolutely sucked, also let me know that too. And I will see you next time. Bye.